Section 17. The BINSR. What do we do with the inspection results? When we left Ashley in Section 13, she had completed the general home inspection with Tom. She went into the inspection hoping Tom would tell her the house was perfect. Instead, she received something much more useful. Information. Tom identified a non-functioning exterior receptacle, a failed window seal, concerns involving the water heater installation, evidence of prior moisture near the area where the seller disclosed an old roof leak, and an aging air conditioning system that he recommended be evaluated further. Ashley stared at the report and said, "This house is falling apart." Daniel reminded her that no home is perfect and that the purpose of inspection isn't to receive a perfect report. The purpose is to learn enough about the property to make an informed decision. Now Ashley has to answer the next question. What does she want to do with what she learned? Daniel schedules a meeting with Ashley instead of simply asking her to text him a repair list. That's important because the inspection response can become one of the most significant decision points in the transaction. Daniel explains that when using the applicable Arizona Realtors contract and forms, the buyer's inspection notice and seller's response, commonly called the BINSR, is used to communicate the buyer's election concerning inspection and due diligence matters according to the contract. The exact current form and contract language control, so Daniel should never rely entirely on memory from an older version. Ashley immediately says, "Easy. Let's ask them to fix everything in the report." Daniel looks at the report. There are dozens of observations, including minor maintenance items. He asks Ashley, "Are all of these items equally important to you?" She pauses. "Well, no." That's the conversation experienced buyer's agents should have. The agent shouldn't automatically turn a home inspection report into a demand that the seller make the property brand new. The buyer should identify what actually matters to the decision to proceed. Michael has another broker rule. The BINSR is not a remodeling wish list. That doesn't mean Ashley is prohibited from requesting legitimate repairs or corrections allowed under the contract. It means Daniel should help her focus on the conditions that concern her, rather than assuming every inspector observation must become a seller demand. Ashley decides the HVAC system, prior moisture area, water heater issue, and electrical concern are most important. She asks Daniel, "Can we just write seller to fix HVAC?" Daniel explains why vague language creates problems. What does fix mean? Who determines whether it was fixed? Is the request for repair, replacement, service, further evaluation, or something else? Clear language reduces misunderstandings. Agents should accurately document the buyer's requested action without trying to draft technical specifications beyond their expertise. Let's look at an example. If a qualified HVAC contractor determines that a particular component needs repair, Ashley's request can be based on that professional information. Daniel doesn't need to invent an HVAC solution himself. This is another place where inspection specialists help the buyer make informed requests. Daniel also explains that the seller isn't automatically required to agree to everything Ashley requests simply because an inspector identified it. Depending on the contract and Ashley's election, the seller may agree to requested items, decline some or all requests, or propose another response. The buyer then needs to evaluate the seller's response under the applicable contractual process. Ashley looks surprised. "So why did I pay for an inspection if the seller doesn't have to fix everything?" Daniel explains that inspection isn't a warranty negotiation service. The value of the inspection is information. That information allows Ashley to decide whether she is comfortable proceeding with the property and on what terms, subject to her contractual rights. Depending on the applicable contract language, a buyer may have options during the inspection period that can include accepting the property subject to the contract, providing notice of disapproved items, requesting correction, or electing cancellation based on disapproved items. Daniel must work from the actual contract rather than giving Ashley a generic statement such as, "You can cancel for anything, anytime before closing." Contractual rights have requirements and deadlines. This is where many agents get into trouble. They miss the inspection deadline. Daniel calendared the inspection period immediately when the contract became effective. He doesn't wait until the final hour to ask Ashley what she wants to do. Missing a deadline can materially change the buyer's contractual position. Ashley completes her BINSR based on the issues that matter to her. Daniel carefully reviews it with her, confirms that it reflects her instructions, and delivers it according to the contract. Then they wait. The next day, the seller responds. The seller agrees to address the electrical issue and water heater concern. The seller agrees to have the HVAC system serviced by a licensed contractor, but does not agree to replace it. Regarding the previous moisture area, the seller provides documentation concerning the earlier roof repair and agrees to additional evaluation. Ashley reads the response and says, "They didn't give me everything I wanted. Should I be angry?" Daniel laughs. "No, this is a negotiation, not a punishment." Now Ashley has another decision to make. She needs to evaluate what the seller agreed to do, what remains unresolved, and whether she is comfortable proceeding under the applicable contractual process. Daniel can help her understand the real estate consequences, but he cannot decide what level of property condition Ashley should personally accept. Here's another common mistake. The buyer's agent becomes emotionally invested and says, "If they won't replace that air conditioner, we're walking." Whose transaction is it? The buyer's. Daniel can explain that the system is older, discuss the inspection information, help Ashley obtain specialist information, and talk through the contractual options. But Ashley decides whether an older HVAC system is acceptable to her. After reviewing everything, Ashley decides she wants to continue. The requested evaluations are completed, the agreed items are documented, and Daniel reminds her to keep copies of the relevant reports and communications. Ashley finally relaxes. Then Rachel calls. "Good news, we're ordering the appraisal." Ashley looks at Daniel. "Isn't that basically another inspection?" Daniel smiles. "Not exactly. The home inspection focused primarily on helping Ashley understand condition. The appraisal is going to address another major question. Does the property support the value needed for the financing transaction? And sometimes, depending on the loan program, property condition can enter that conversation too. That's where we're headed next. Online discussion 1. Ashley wants to ask the seller to repair every item in the inspection report. How should Daniel approach the conversation? Answer. Daniel should help Ashley review the report and identify which conditions are actually important to her decision. The inspection report may contain major concerns, safety issues, maintenance observations, and minor items. Ashley determines what she wants to request under the applicable contract, while Daniel helps her understand the process and clearly document her instructions. 2. Why can a request, such as seller to fix HVAC, create problems? The word fix may be unclear because the parties may have different understandings of what work is required. Clearer requests reduce disputes concerning whether the seller satisfied the agreement. When technical repairs are involved, recommendations or evaluations from qualified professionals can help the buyer formulate an appropriate request without the real estate agent attempting to design the repair. 3. Why is monitoring the inspection period deadline so important? Answer. The buyer's inspection and due diligence rights are governed by the contract and applicable deadlines. Failure to act within the required time frame may affect the buyer's contractual options. Daniel should calendar the deadline, communicate with Ashley early, and ensure that any required notice or election is delivered according to the contract.